We are the warriors of the Grey Knights, Demon Hunters. Chaos cannot stand against us!
I have always been obsessed with the grim and dark universe of Warhammer 40k, where humanity has already gone through way too much, and almost forever, it has been clinging on to whatever it can find, as they are desperate for survival. But survival is not easy, because the entire universe is amidst endless war. Xenos races are battling for dominance, and the powers of chaos are out to get anyone and everyone it can find in its way. All of this sounds bad enough for humanity to survive, but there is one more thing that the humans really need to defend themselves from, and that is the Orcs. The Orcs are brutal, yet comical, but they are also beings that can be referred to as a catastrophe itself, because their very existence thrives on war, and because of it, they have disrupted the very balance of the galaxy. But beneath all of these, there lies a horrifying truth that not many realize before it is too late, and that is that the Orcs might actually be the most dangerous species to exist in the entire galaxy. They are not just mindless fighters or broken warriors, they are actual living biological weapons that were designed by the ancient Old Ones so that they could partake in an ancient nuclear war that happened millions of years before the Imperium even existed. Everything about the Orcs is engineered in such a way that it ensures that they can never be eradicated and that they can never stop fighting. Before we get into the video, please click the like and subscribe button and ring the bell icon so that you never miss any updates from us. Today we will be deep diving into maybe one of the most interesting lore in the entire Warhammer 40k universe, the Orcs. What is the significance of Orcs in the Warhammer 40k universe? Like all the other types of characters and species, the Orcs also embody the universe of Warhammer 40k in their own unique way. Unlike many others, such as the grim despair of the Imperium, the insidious corruption of chaos, or the slow extinction of the Eldar, Orcs bring with them a wild, anarchic energy. They might have been made for the purpose of comic relief, but they are still nightmare fuel for everyone they come across. In fact, the Orcs are actually so powerful that they can bend reality through their psychic field because of their crude logic about certain things, such as red ones go faster, bigger is better, and of course, if it works, it works. If we had to explain what Orcs truly were, it would be the same as saying that they were never meant to exist, but they do, because they want to. The gnarly green-colored beasts are absolutely incapable of going extinct, and are almost always hungry to just jump into a war. Whether you find them absolutely hilarious or shockingly terrifying, there is no denying that the Orcs are the core entities of the Warhammer 40k universe. They are the embodiment of the setting's tagline. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Origins of the Orcs. Learning is the power of knowing, and we cannot learn about the Orcs unless we learn their exact origin, because sometimes the answer lies in the question itself. Numerous millennia before humans were even capable of going to the stars, and even the Emperor of Mankind was impersonating world leaders to bring peace on Earth, the galaxy was torn apart by a cosmic-level war that was titled the War in Heavens. This war was between two very powerful groups of entities, namely the Old Ones and the Necrontyr. The Old Ones were ancient beings that were almost godlike and possessed immense knowledge and power, whereas the Necrontyr were beings that took the help of the star gods, called the Catan, and turned themselves into the soulless Necrons. Due to this immense battle that was going on between numerous stars, it was actually a big threat, because it could potentially unravel reality itself. Due to not having a good enough an arsenal, the Old Ones were desperate to get their hands on something that was enough to beat their supposedly unbeatable opponents. And so, they engineered a new species so that it could fight on their behalf. Among these new species were the Eldar, who were the masters of psychic power, and the Krork, who were actually the powerful ancestors of the New Age Orcs. Understandably, the Krorks were designed to be the supreme warriors who were resilient, tough, devoted, and most importantly, simple-minded. Not only were they built in such a way that they would be good fighters, but they were also designed so that they would thrive in war itself. In fact, the more conflicts they won, the stronger they got, and because of that, they were like wildfire on a battlefield. Over the course of millions of years, as the war in heaven finally came to an end, and the galaxy moved on, the Orcs slowly devolved into the Orcs we know of today. Although the Orcs were less sophisticated than their ancestors, they still retained all the essential traits that made them perfect warriors. Their brutal strength, regenerative biology, and instinctive grasp of warfare and technology. Unlike the Eldar and the Necrons, who either struggled to fight against going extinct or lived in their long-lost glory, Orcs actually adapted perfectly to the harsh environments of the new galaxy. They were not bound to anything by emotions, any grand ambitions other than fighting, or even politics. They only enjoyed one thing throughout their entire lives, and that was war. To be honest, the Orcs are probably the most successful species the Old Ones have ever created. Maybe when the Old Ones were creating the Orcs, they just wanted soldiers. But do not mistake the Orcs as a mistake. They were perhaps destined to become one of the strongest and the most adaptable species in the entire galaxy. And because of that, even in the 41st millennium, they are still doing just what they were meant to do: battles and conflicts. Orc physiology and reproduction. Although at the very first glance, the Orcs may seem to be almost humanoid creatures who were covered in dark green skin, with humongous muscles, oversized grisly jaws, and a perpetual scowl. But underneath all of this, they have a specific biology to themselves that is unlike anyone else. Believe it or not, the Orcs are not really animal-based creatures. They are actually more of a mix between an animal and a fungus, and this gives them the regenerative toughness of plant life with the mobility of animal forms. Because of having such a unique and hybrid biology, the Orcs are incredibly resilient. Most powerful attacks that would be capable of killing any other creature are nothing but mere wounds to the Orcs that they can heal from within a few hours or days. They can even shrug off bullets, burns, and broken bones with such an ease that the only way we can describe it is astonishing. To make them even more resilient, their blood can clot in seconds. If any of their organs are damaged, their nerves can just reroute themselves to function again, and their muscles are so thick that they are as good as any shield. And if all of this was not enough, an Orc can lose its arm and keep on fighting, and even if they are decapitated, they can still move around to land one final finishing blow. No man can ever fight them one-on-one, and it is clear as to why. Well, you might think that the scary part about them is over, and we will get to the funny part. And you are wrong. We have not even talked about their most terrifying feature, and that is their reproductive cycle. Like many fungi, the Orcs actually reproduce via spores, which they shed constantly as they live, fight, and even when they die. These spores bury deep in the ground, and with time, they give birth to new Orcs, and even other creatures like squigs, snotlings, and Gretchen that emerge from the ground. Like fungi, the Orcs make sure that wherever they go, they plant the seeds of infestation. This is why even attempting to exterminate all Orcs from a planet is basically impossible. You kill one Orc, 5 more will grow right back from the soil. Due to their unique physiology, the Orcs actually grow bigger and stronger as they fight. Young Orcs who are called Yuf are actually really small, but incredibly tough. With time, as this Yuf goes through numerous battles and survives them, he turns into a boy, and then soon into a knob, and eventually, if he survives all these battles and gets more powerful, he turns into a war boss. This means that Orcs evolve within their own lifetime, transforming from mere foot soldiers into warlords simply through the act of fighting. They can even survive almost any environment. Extreme heat? No problem. Extreme cold? They will barely wear a top to keep themselves warm. Hell, they can even survive a vacuum for a short amount of time. The Orcs also barely need any food or water to survive, and they can eat and digest almost anything that is edible without any side effects. If the situations get even worse, they can always just hibernate till they feel like they can come out of it. In essence, orcs are built to survive anywhere and everywhere, spreading endlessly across the stars. Psychic nature and Waaagh energy. So far, we talked about the origins of the orcs, their physique, and even how they reproduce, and honestly, all of it was fascinating to say the least. But the most fascinating yet terrifying thing about them is their psychology. Unlike many human psykers or Eldar warlocks, orcs do not consciously have the power to wield psychic powers. Instead, they can subconsciously generate a collective psychic field that is known as the Waaagh field. The Waaagh field is a thing that is created by all the orcs sharing the same belief, and it gets stronger with more orcs. When orcs get together in a large group, their collective subconscious actually bends reality to align with their expectations. It's like, if they believe God is real, with enough orcs, they can actually bring God to life. Some instances of the orcs using this power are, orcs believe that red makes things faster, so they paint their vehicles red, so they actually go faster. Orcs believe that their ramshackle guns will fire, and so they do, often defying physics in the process. And remember, we said the war boss was their final stage? Well, because all the orcs believe the war boss is immortal, they actually become much harder to kill. This weird psychic power actually explains why their barely functioning weapons keep on working without any repair. If a human were to try out these weapons, they would easily understand that the thing they were holding in their hand was more of a piece of broken metal rather than a gun that can actually work. Mech boys, who are the orc engineers, are actually really influenced by this field. These engineers also possess an instinctive understanding of numerous machines, and that is why they are able to construct complex vehicles, weapons, and even spacecraft without any formal knowledge. Although smarter than others, they are still orcs, and so their creations often look absurd, yet they function because mech boys believe they should. The scariest part about the Waaagh field is that the more number of orcs there are believing in a certain thing, the higher the chances of that thing happening are. With this, the orcs often amplify their luck, strength, and even toughness. This explains why orcs are most dangerous during a Waaagh moment, because their collective psychic energy makes them virtually unstoppable. Some scholars and scientists who have studied this phenomenon in detail truly believe that if the orcs truly believe in a certain event, their belief can actually manipulate and change things on a galactic level. Thankfully, the orcs are way too busy fighting and battling each other to actually unify among themselves, but the possibility still lingers on. Society and culture. Just like their mentality, the orc society is very chaotic and is an absolute anarchy, but they are not completely violent either. In fact, beneath their violent exterior, they have a crude yet effective system of order in place. As we know by now, orcs are basically defined by their strength, and this strength only increases when they are in combat. Their power is not inherited, negotiated, or voted upon, so there is no way that an orc who does not fight will be stronger than one who does. Combat is the only way they can gain any power, both in status and in strength. They even have an army setting. The boys are the weakest orcs who make up the majority of their army. The knobs actually control how the boys will function, almost like a commander or general, and the war bosses are the ones who tactically lead the entire army under their orders. The war bosses are considered to be legendary individuals who beat all odds, and so they are the pinnacle of the orc society. Because of their power-hungry and combat-seeking ideology, an orc only follows their boss as long as the boss is strong and is capable of leading them. As soon as the orcs realize that they can get stronger than their boss, they challenge the boss to a fight to the death for the position. In fact, if even a war boss shows any sign of weakness, they are bound to be challenged by a knob or any other orc who thinks they are strong enough to take on the war boss. Due to this system, it ensures that only the strong are leading the army, while the weak are sacrificed in battle. Unlike human societies, which fear instability, orcs thrive on this ever-shifting dominance, because it guarantees that the toughest, most violent orcs rise to the top. Daily lives for the Orcs are always the same. When they are not going to war, they are often engaged in brawling with each other just for the thrill. Although these fights are not to the death, they are often seen as a power system, testing each individual based on their power. Violence is both recreation and necessity for the Orcs, and it is also a method of bonding as well as survival. Orcs find as much joy in a good, friendly battle with their rival as they do in grand wars, and these constant clashes serve to keep their society strong. Orcs even have a religion, and funnily, their religion is just like their nature, totally war-based. Orcs in general worship two gods, Gork and Mork. The god Gork is said to be a brutal but cunning god, while Mork is a cunning but brutal one. Because of this subtle difference, the Orcs often debate and fight amongst themselves, debating which god is better of the two. These debates often turn into full-fledged fights, and this is the exact type of demand the gods have from them. For Orcs, faith is inseparable from combat, and their gods embody the violence at the heart of their culture. The Orcs are not always just together with other Orcs, but they are also accompanied by other creatures, and these creatures make a lesser ecosystem within the Orc society. Gretchins, also known as Grots, are lesser creatures that fulfill the roles of servants. They also do odd jobs such as slaves, floor wipers, and cannon fodder. The Grots are actually very weak and cowardly, but because of their continuous service, they have become an inseparable asset to the lives of the Orcs. They do all the things other large Orcs cannot be bothered to do. Below Grots, there are other creatures called Snotlings. The Snotlings are often used for labor, but if the Orcs run out of food or ammo, the Snotlings are the perfect substitute. Just like Snotlings, another creature on the same status level are the Squigs. The Squigs are bizarre, orcoid creatures that are bred for innumerable tasks. Some of them serve as beasts of burden, some as war beasts, and if not needed, they are straight-up dinner for the Orcs. Together, Orcs, Grots, Snotlings, and Squigs form a complete ecosystem that emerges wherever Orcs settle. The irony of all of this is that because all the creatures are born from the same spores on the ground, they all inevitably end up in the same ecosystem, even if there are no older Orcs to command them. You can also call it the way of life at this point. In summary, the Orc society is both brutal, yet self-sustaining to such an extent that it has no need for philosophy, no concern for art, no patience for subtlety. The Orcs live a way of life that is specifically engineered just for war, which is strengthened by combat, and it is ruled over by gods who demand nothing more than just an endless battle. The Orc clans. Just because all the Orcs love war, it does not mean all of them share the same ideologies and ideas, and that is why, often, the Orcs organize themselves into clans. These clans have their own fighting styles, traditions, and their own view of the world. Although these clans are not political entities, they are cultural groups that shape how an Orc fights and behaves in a battle. The Goths are one such clan. They are pretty straightforward with their ideology, as they believe that whoever is stronger and bigger is better. They often dress up in black and possess flashy weapons, and for them, enemies are nothing but dummies that are made to practice their crushing skills on. The Goths prefer to charge head first in a battle with massive choppers, and their armies are just so huge that they overwhelm anyone who stands against them. In contrast to the Goths, another clan called the Evil Sons is actually obsessed with speed. They believe that going fast is the only way they can blitz through the war towards victory. They are so down bad for speed that they paint their vehicles red, because red equals speed, and well, sure, whatever floats your boat. The Bad Moons clan is the wealthiest of all the clans, because they have an ability that allows them to grow orc teeth faster than others, and in the orc world, orc teeth are everything. Due to being so wealthy, they can buy fancy weapons and flashier war gear. Bad Moon's warbands are also very famous for their dazzling displays of firepower and the ostentatious equipment of their knobs and war bosses. The clan called Death Skulls loves looting others. They are almost defined by it. They are for real scavengers who take pride in the act of stealing, and they often steal enemy equipment and repurpose it for themselves. They also paint themselves and their gears blue because they consider blue to be the luckiest color of them all. Death skulls are the true embodiment of the opportunistic side of orc warfare. They are always eager to scavenge, steal, and cobble together new weapons from the wreckage of battle. The Snakebites are the only clan that still follows their old traditions to this day. They are the Republicans of the Warhammer 40k universe, because not only do they not trust new advanced technology, but they also prefer to rely on beasts, squigs, and natural methods of war. Because of their tradition and approach to war, they consider themselves to be the true heirs of the orc ways. That is why their warbands often feature great beasts and squiggoths instead of mechanical vehicles. Out of all these unique clans, the Blood Axes are the most unusual of them all. The Blood Axes actually use a lot of tactics that humans use, such as camouflage, ambushes, and when they are in a bad position, unlike other orcs who would keep on fighting, they retreat and regroup for their next action. Because of this, most orcs find them extremely sus, and some do not even trust them at all. Blood Axes are pragmatic and mercenary, so they sometimes even negotiate temporary truces with enemies if it serves their interests. That is why, even if they are not like other orcs, they are potentially even more dangerous as they are unpredictable. Together, these clans demonstrate the diversity of orc culture. Though united by a common love of war, each of these clans interprets war differently, and this leads to armies that are as varied in style as they are destructive in effect. Warfare and the Waaagh. We have already talked about the Waaagh, but now let us see how it really works. As we have previously established, war is not a want for the orcs. It is a need. War is necessary for them to function, and without war, orcs would quite literally go insane. For the orcs, war is entertainment, religion, and fulfillment rolled into one. Due to their manifestation capabilities, the orcs can subconsciously manifest a lot of things, but the most devastating manifestation of orc warfare is the phenomenon known as the Waaagh. Is a military campaign as well as a cultural event, which is caused when a massive group of orcs gather together under the order of a war boss. As orcs gather in greater numbers, their collective excitement fuels the psychic field that empowers their weapons, their vehicles, and even their luck. Because of this, and their collective mental power, the Waaagh actually hits their enemies like a freaking truck, maybe even an avalanche, because it engulfs everything in its path in a swift move. When a Waaagh descends upon a poor planet, the result is almost always the same: massive destruction through and through. The orcs all arrive on the planet in massive armies, and the sheer number of orcs is mostly enough to overwhelm their enemies. During their wars, the orcs purposefully destroy and kill everyone and everything, and leave behind their spores, so that new orcs can take birth there. In fact, they spray their spores on planets, even if the Waaagh is repelled, because the spores will make sure that the orcs will always make it through to the planet, one way or another. The orcs treat the Waaagh as a celebration, and it truly shows just how much they enjoy it. Creepy. Sheesh. Famous orc characters. All throughout history, numerous orcs have actually managed to make a name for themselves by winning over the fungi hearts of all the other orcs, either through war or through, well, war. Among all of these orcs, there is one orc who no one dares to challenge ever, and that is Gaz Kal Maruk Thraka. He is the most feared orc and the most powerful war boss of the modern age. Gaz Kal is also a self-proclaimed prophet of Gork and Mork, and due to his power and influence over all the orcs, he has managed to unify countless orcs under his rule. When Gaz Kal goes on a campaign, he makes sure that not even a single living creature is left alive, and if they are left alive, they will wish they were not. He is also the one who has created the biggest Waaagh field in the galaxy, just because he had so many orcs under his rule. Gaz Kal is definitely a figure of near-mythic stature among orcs, seen as both a conqueror and a holy man. and his visions drive him ever onward to greater wars. If he was not dangerous enough, he has a loyal servant called Makari. Makari was once considered to be dead, but he proved everyone wrong, and due to him pulling this stunt off multiple times, Orcs believe that he has a supernatural control over himself because he can return from events that would usually be fatal, even for Orcs. Makari is also considered to be the luckiest Orc, and with him by his side, Gaz-Karl is treated as a god with luck by his side. Another renowned figure is Nazdreg Ag Erdgrub. He is actually a Bad Moon's war boss, who is famous for his immense wealth and tactical cunning. He was the first person to use teleportas to launch surprise attacks. Due to his arsenal, the Imperium always faces issues when going up against him. Not all Orcs are from clans though, and one of the most famous of these is Captain Badruk. Captain Badruk is a freebooter. He is also a pirate, and has a very flamboyant fashion style, filled with greed. His exploits are so famous that they are considered the stuff of legend, starting from daring raids to almost life-threatening expeditions, and his flamboyance makes him one of the most colorful figures in Orc lore. Boss Zagstruck is the leader of the Storm Boys, and what he is famous for will leave you in shock. Throughout the galaxy, he has been famous for launching salvage shock attacks. Shocking, right? Well, anyway, Zagstruck is considered to be one of the most heartless of the Orcs ever, and it is said that if you were up against him and lost the battle, there is nothing worse that can happen to you. These Orc individuals collectively show the variety of Orc leadership. Gaz-Karl is one of the prophets and visionaries. Others represent slyness and greed, such as Badruk and Nazdreg. Some are the epitome of absolute savagery, such as Zagstruck. Each and every one of them actually demonstrates that while Orc grandeur might manifest itself in a variety of ways, it is always based on physical prowess, aggression, and ambition. Orcs as a galactic threat. In the universe of Warhammer 40k, there are innumerable galactic threats looming everywhere, but the Orcs hold their own insidious spot in the list. Although they are not as deadly as the Chaos, not as alien as the Tyranids, nor are they as ancient as the Necrons, but one thing that separates them from the others is the fact that they might be the most enduring danger of them all. Due to their sheer biology, it is impossible to rid a place of Orcs once they have even hovered over it. Every step plants a seed of infestation that ensures that Orcs will return to that place, sooner rather than later. Unlike other enemies, Orcs require no ideology, no strategy, and no grand plan. The Orcs fight because they can, and because they need to. This makes them unpredictable and absolutely relentless to their cause. The Imperium has many ways to get rid of problems. They can negotiate with human rebels, they can manipulate rival Xenos, and they can even hold back sudden tide attacks from the Chaos. But the Orcs, they are a different story. They cannot be bargained with, nor do they listen to any reasoning. They will always seek the next fight, regardless of circumstance. Ironically, the only thing that is stopping the Orcs from taking over the entire galaxy is also themselves. The Orcs fight among themselves just as much as they fight others, and that is almost all the time. This constant battle among themselves actually stops them from reaching their full potential. But the only time they show exception to this fact is when they are under the rule of a proper war boss, because then all hell breaks loose. The Imperium, which is not afraid of anything, still fears a galactic-level Waaagh attack, because if that ever happens, nothing will be able to stop the Orcs, not even themselves. This possibility of a galactic-level attack is what makes Orcs such a profound threat. They do not merely menace individual planets or sectors, but they also represent a danger to the galaxy itself. They are a force of nature, unstoppable and eternal, a green tide that surges endlessly across the stars. The eternal green tide. The Orcs of Warhammer 40k are more than just comic relief, more than brutish savages. The Orcs are the living proof of survivors of a heavenly fight that occurred millions of years ago. They are the proof that they were made by creatures to become weapons through their actions alone. They have even outlasted their own creators, and their ancestors might even be considered weaker than them in a bunch. They embody the contradictions of the setting. On the surface, they are ridiculous, their crude speech and bizarre logic making them a source of humor. Yet at the same freaking time, they are terrifying creatures who are persistent and war-hungry to their very hearts. Their endurance, biology, and sheer numbers are enough to take over any place they want to. They are a joke that the galaxy cannot stop laughing at, even as it bleeds from the consequences. The entire galaxy will rise and will eventually fall. They will see development and they will see war. But throughout all of it, the only species that is sure to survive every single event is the Orcs. The Orcs will keep on fighting till the end of time because they are Orcs, and the only thing Orcs can do is fight. In the end, when all others are gone, it may well be the Orcs who remain, still fighting, still laughing, still shouting the one word that defines them above all else. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other videos on the channel and comment down below what we should explore next. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.